We're gonna have to get down and dirty.
Joe Dirte?
Don't you mean Joe Dirt?
We're talking dirty like a lollipop stuck between two couch cushions dirty. We're talking dirty like an all-you-can-eat barbecue buffet sponsored by extra slippy fingers and people with tight jaws. All right, guys, we are talking about Harbor Freight. Guys, what's going on? It's great to be here with you guys again. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing. We are swanton bombing our way to 1,000 subscribers. So I'd be glad to have you. For all you 86 people who have joined the bandwagon, thank you guys so much. Please share this video with somebody or share another video that you might have liked with somebody that made you subscribe, and maybe get them on the team also, because it would be greatly appreciated. We're doing our thing, guys, and we're all in this together. And once we get to 1,000, I wanted to keep it a little hush-hush secret, but every single 1,000, the first 1,000, y'all are gonna get something. I don't know what it's gonna be yet, but I know you guys are gonna get something, and it's gonna be something cool. So I wanna make sure I can give you guys something back. So for the first 1,000, guys, once we get there, y'all are gonna get something. Trust me, all right? I'll reach out to all you guys individually, or you guys can reach out to me. We'll make this work. Let's do that. Man, you know, I'm just out here. I'm just a regular guy, just like you guys, right? And I just want to come out here and just make something entertaining. You know, basically something that you guys would want to see, and something that, you know, you guys might get some enjoyment out of. So if there's something that you want to see, if there's a video you want me to make, whether that means I have to do research or whatever, make a presentation, I don't know, you let me know, because I'll do it, all right? Because I want you guys to be entertained. Maybe it's a video you haven't seen before, don't have a lot of research on. Hit me with it, I'll do it. All right, so I just want to give you guys a little bit of updates here, what's going on with the car and the truck. So with the truck, we have our rear differential leaking situation going on. Honestly, the leak is less, but it's still leaking. So I went and I JB welded it. I tried to clear out any crevices to see if like I could get in there and fix these little pinholes, and I just can't find out where the leak's coming from. I bet you the leak is like from the seal that's behind the pinion, because I think that's pressed in. So I bet you it's coming from there. Anywho, we're gonna try and figure something out with that, and I'll keep you guys posted. But all in all, you know, she's still running good. She just got a little leak going on. We got to figure out this leaky situation. We're gonna have that handled, and I'm gonna bring you guys along for that. Now, the Ford on the Fusion, I went ahead and I just made a gasket over those new fender flares that, you know, we put in. It's still self-tap. It still looks good. I just wanted to go ahead and just get that thing to look clean, because I've been driving it a lot, and I just didn't like that gap in there. So I went ahead and did that. Other thing that kept me busy this week was that my friend's daughter has a four-wheeler and the handlebars are broken, so I had to go ahead and fix that. So, you know, just staying busy, staying active, doing what I can to try and, you know, just stay mechanical. All right, guys, so none of this would be possible if we didn't have a couple of tools. And so that's what this video is going to be about. Are tools that I think that any beginner might want to use. So if you're advanced, you already have a ton of tools in the shop, this might not be for you, but you can still be entertained by watching this, because there's going to be some cool stuff. But anyway, so for the people who might be beginners or might just be watching this video and they might just start getting into, you know, working on lawnmowers or cars or trucks or whatever, you know, for that matter, just staying mechanical. These are kind of some of the tools that I think are beneficial to you, which were beneficial to me. And if I knew what I kind of needed before getting started, it would have saved me some money. So guys, we're gonna have to get down and dirty.
Joe Dirte?
Don't you mean Joe Dirt?
We're talking dirty like a lollipop stuck between two couch cushions dirty. We're talking dirty like an all-you-can-eat barbecue buffet sponsored by extra slippy fingers and people with tight jaws. All right, guys, we are talking about Harbor Freight. Before you jump out here, all right, there's nothing to be Harbor Freight of, okay? Harbor Freight is just another big box store, but there's reasons why I like it. And sure, you're gonna need to get a more expensive tool down the road for certain jobs, but for a lot of the basic hand tools, I think that you get the best value with Harbor Freight. So let's go over why I like Harbor Freight. Number one, convenience. Just like any other big box store, you can find them, right? They're easy to find, they're easy to get a tool, you're in and you're out. 2, if something breaks, generally you can just take it back and they'll give you a new one. I've done that with and without a receipt, but it's good to have your receipt, right? And 3, like I just said, value. Because when you talk about value, you're talking about putting your money into something that's going to be long lasting, or it's going to work really well, right? Those are what's going to make the tool valuable, or the thing that you want valuable. With Harbor Freight, for basic hand tools, a mallet, wrenches, sockets, things like that, you do get what you pay for, but I think you get a little bit more. So I just want to come out and say this right out the gate. If you have no tools at all, you're probably going to have your best bet by getting like a mechanic's tool set. This is not a Harbor Freight thing, but I'm sure you can get one there. But you're looking at getting like a bunch of tools, like 250 tools, right? And I wouldn't just go to like Home Depot or Lowe's and just go pick them up unless you got the dough for show. But if you're trying to save some money, I'd say look on Marketplace. There's lots of people that kind of get these gifts for like Christmas and for their birthdays and stuff like that, and they just don't need them. Maybe they're a mechanical person, so somebody says, oh, I know the perfect present for this guy. Let me go get him a beginner's mechanic's tool set. It's like, he probably already has all that stuff, or she probably has all that stuff already. So, I'm just saying, on Marketplace, you can get these things brand new, and you can get them for like $100. All right, so you're gonna save yourself a lot of money for like a Cobalt or a DeWalt, or a brand that's kind of like mid-grade. You know what I'm saying? Or even a high grade. I bet you can get like a good mechanic set that's of high quality for really cheap. Now, for people that have already had lots of tool sets and you've gone through lots of tools, you've broken lots of tools, and you're gonna head to your local Harbor Freight. These are some tools that I think might be beneficial to you. All right. Number 1, the tool that I use a lot of times here, mostly on every single project when I'm working on the truck, are impact sockets. They're nice, they're deep well, they can get the job done. You can take off any lug nut that's over tightened down. I use this thing to take hubs off and everything else. So impacts are used on like almost every project that I've done. You don't need to have a 1/2-inch impact gun right off the gate. That's like kind of like a luxury down the road. If you got the muscles for it, go for it with like just a regular 1/2-inch ratchet. And if you don't have the muscles for it, still go with that 1/2-inch ratchet because you're going to build up those muscles. Number 2, wrenches, standard and metric wrenches. That's one of the things that I bought at Harbor Freight twice over already, because I lose them. And I take them, I go working at some buddy's place or whatever, and I lose them. Or I go to my dad's place and I'll lose them, or my brother's place, and they just get lost. The other thing too is, of the quality, they are relatively decent. I did round off a 13 millimeter by banging on it, like last summer. But I was able to bang a standard on there and crank off the bolt that I was trying to get off the hub. So I'll say that these are decent quality. They pretty much will get the job done. And if you're like me and you've already had lots of tools in the past, I have another 13 that I can use, besides that Harbor Freight one. But I'm just letting you know that they can only take so much abuse. But I think they're very handy. Now, the Harbor Freight wrenches come in their own organizer, and that organizer is terrible. Okay, the wrenches fall out of them. They have this little clip that comes over. It's just terrible. So, what you might want to invest in if you're going to buy these wrenches is the Harbor Freight wrench organizer, because I had one of those, and you know what? It actually does the job really well. It keeps those wrenches in there, and I haven't had a problem. I was actually really happy with that buy because I kept having the wrenches fall out over and over and over again. Keep stacking them in there all nice, and they just keep falling out. So it's worth the investment, the cheap investment, to get this like wrench organizer. One of the things I use, quite often is the grinder. You can use it for all applications. All right, I use this grinder for basically, any product that I had on this truck or this car that needed something cut off, whether it's the exhaust, whether it's something that's rusted off and I can't get it off, I had to cut it off. It just does the job. And even when I cut the fender flares a little bit to modify them on the Ford, I used the grinder for that. I just put the real thin wheel on there. So for $20 or under $20 when I got this grinder, I think it's worth it. It is corded, so it's not cordless, but you know what? If you can run an extension out there and just get the job done for under $20, I think that's worth it. A mallet, you kind of want a mallet. It has its time and its place, but you're gonna need it when you need it. You'll know what I mean. You're gonna need a 1/2-inch ratchet. And if it doesn't come with a kit, or a set that you already have, you're gonna need a 1/2-inch ratchet. Because you're gonna have like bigger sockets, and they're gonna be 1/2-inch sockets. And if you end up getting deep well sockets or impact sockets, most of them are gonna be 1/2-inch. You can get some that are smaller, but I think that the majority of people are probably gonna grab these 1/2-inch sockets. So I'm just saying, go ahead and get yourself a 1/2-inch ratchet. And with that, get yourself a 1/2-inch torque wrench. Because if you're working on cars, for certain, you're gonna need to have a torque wrench because things need to be torqued down to spec. And it's really easy to use, and you can get these at Harbor Freight really cheap. And mine is working like really well. I have a Pittsburgh torque wrench, and it's worked on basically all the applications for the car and the truck that I needed. It's really easy to set. It clicks when it's supposed to. The only thing I noticed between the value, I'll call that, the cheaper Harbor Freight torque wrench and other torque wrenches that some of my buddies have who are mechanical, you really have to give it a little bit of extra effort to get that click to click on when you are working with these Harbor Freight torque wrenches. Now, for like these little guys, these are impact driver sockets. I'm not sure if I got these at Harbor Freight or not, but I will say that they do come in handy. So I have my like little Cobalt impact driver, and this thing works great. But we're not talking about the Cobalt driver. We're going to be talking about these little driver sockets. They go from like 6 millimeters all the way up to like 13 millimeters, and it's just nice to take like covers off, intake covers. If you got like if you have a cover underneath your car, we'll call it like a skid plate, but really not a skid plate. It's like a plastic, cover for the bottom of your car. Those bolts can be anywhere from like 6 mil to 10 mil, or it can be a mixture of 6 mil or 10 mil, So it's nice to have these because you can just zip those off. And those little, bolts, especially for like covers, they tend to be long. So if you're under a car and you're in a weird position, you're gonna be cranking for a long time. So it's just nice to have these little driver sockets, and I use them all the time, so I think they're valuable. Swivels, okay? I can't say enough. Swivels are when you need to get in those hard to reach places. Swivels are for when you realize that, oh crap, you're in a pickle and you need to get yourself out of it before you start breaking stuff. So grab a swivel, right? I use them all the time. Right, the last few here I'm gonna talk about is, I know some people are not gonna like this, but the brake pad tool. It works well for what you're paying for. It's gonna save you some time and it's gonna save you some energy. I used to just use C-clamps, and that's what I used for years to do brake jobs. And I'm telling you, this little brake pad tool is just helpful. It's just helpful. It does the job. It compresses the brake pads like you need it, and makes the job easier. You need a jack. So I have a Pittsburgh jack. Works great. And jack stands, all right? And I know, mine are not Harbor Freight, they're from AutoZone, but it was my first time buying jack stands, okay? Usually I get them from like my dad or a friend or whatever. I actually never really had to buy my own jack stands until like relatively recently. So I needed them, I was in a bind, I was at AutoZone, so I just picked them up. They're relatively cheap, but if I could do it over, probably would have got the Harbor Freight ones because they are like the exact same thing and will save you some money. So, there's other stuff that I've bought, from Harbor Freight that I don't really use very often. I have this gear puller that I use to pull a hub off my wife's, she had a Ford Explorer at the time. If you don't know about the hubs on the Ford Explorer, they're two different metals that come together, so there's lots of corrosion. You can't get that sucker off, man. With everything that I had, man, I was hitting that with like mallets and sledgehammers and everything else. What took it off the hub was I had to put that little gear puller on there, and then I had to whack it, for like 2 days with a mallet, and finally it pulled the hub off. Now, I did mess up the axle back there, so I had to replace the axle when I had to replace the hub then. But I'm just saying, I was surprised at how much abuse that thing took. For $100, was it worth it? Hopefully I can use it again and make it worth it, but my wife ended up trading that car in like a week later. So probably in the end really wasn't worth it, but I still have it just in case I need it. It kind of looks like, what is that, Dr. Octavius from like Spider-Man? That's what that thing kind of looks like. But yeah, it's you know, I got it. Okay. And the other thing I have is a brake bleeder set. Now I've tried using this thing like 3 times already, and I can't for the life of me figure this thing out. So if you guys know how to use this thing, there's a good video on it that people haven't seen or whatever, leave a comment below. All right, or if you know how to use it, or you think that the thing sucks also, leave a comment below. I don't think it sucks yet, but I'm just saying, like, I wish I knew how to use it, because you can bleed brakes with just one person. And I still just, go by the 2-person brake bleeding method at this point. So look, I'm not sponsored by Harbor Freight. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I do have like an Amazon affiliate, so if you guys click on any of those links below, you guys are gonna hook me up for sure. But I'm not sponsored by Harbor Freight or Home Depot or any of these places or any tool company as awesome as it would be. I'm just an average guy like you guys. So don't do what I do, but this is what I do, and I'm just sharing it with you. Okay? So that being said, there's some things that I ended up gathering along my way that might be helpful for you guys. If you guys have a set of picks, they're very helpful. If you have a 1/2-inch impact gun, that's very helpful. Whether you have a battery powered or an air compressed, whether it's battery powered or you're using an air compressor, having that 1/2-inch is nice to have for sure. If you have a good 1/2-inch, 1/4-inch, and 3/8 ratchet set, those are all helpful to you, because you're going to come across all types of sockets, and you can get your hands on some of those. I think it's going to make your life a little bit easier. It's good to have mechanics gloves of some sort. When you first start out, like me, you're probably not going to use gloves at all, and you're going to cut your hands up all the time. So it's just nice to have, keeps your hands clean, right? And it really does help you from like cutting your hands up. It's nice to have a torch and some lubricants like PB Blaster, WD-40. It's nice to always have that on hand. You never know when you're going to need it for whatever project you're on. Trust me, there's times when I brought out the grinder when I needed it. There's times I brought out the torch or some PB Blaster, and that just made the whole world of difference to finish the job or, get the job started essentially sometimes. So the thing that I use regularly that might be helpful for you guys is I have a little cheap welder. So I do have one of these titanium Harbor Freight cheap flux welders. You don't need to have one of those, but if you're going to be doing any type of work where you might need to be tacking something or welding something, it's nice to have, and it's really cheap, and there's no gas, so it's just straight electricity. The only issue that I have with a flux welder is that they're messy. They're messy. They're very messy. So you have to really hold on your welding gun there to get it hot enough to where the metals are going to fuse together. Let's say that. So I talked to a buddy of mine. I was telling him the issues that I have with my flux welder. He's like, "Guy, get yourself a MIG. Get yourself a Miller." So I was like, okay. So I looked into it. So that's probably going to be the route that I take next. But if you need something and you're in a bind, you're just going to have a glop of mess, but it's going to work. A little cheap flux welder, it's not so bad. All right, guys. So with that, hopefully you guys enjoyed yourself in this video. Maybe it was eye-opening or, informational to you. And if it was, go ahead, give it a like, give it a share, subscribe, For the 86 subscribers that we have right now, my fellow people, thank you guys so much. We are almost on our way to 100. When we get to 1,000, all right, the first 1,000 people are going to get something pretty cool. So join the fun, and let's make this thing happen. I'll see you guys in the next video. If you guys want to see something specific, leave a comment below, and we'll make it happen. We are all in this together, so I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.